She was a dependable daughter, quiet, single, financially stable, the one they never bragged about but always counted on. But when her parents demanded she pay for her sister's new house because you have no husband or kids, Katherine refused. What followed wasn't just betrayal, it was a lawsuit. In this chilling tale of guilt, manipulation, and unexpected resilience, discover how saying no became the most dangerous and liberating thing Katherine ever did. I'm Katherine Sanders. I turned 32 last spring, and for most of my life, I knew exactly where I stood in my family, right behind my sister. Rachel, being 3 years older, was the golden child. She didn't just walk ahead of me, she shined. While I learned to make space for myself in the quiet corners of our childhood home, Rachel commanded the center like she was born to it. Rachel did everything right, at least, according to our parents. She married young, had 2 boys by 27, baked perfect casseroles, and sent out coordinated Christmas cards in September. She and David, her husband, had a tidy two-story in the suburbs, a golden retriever, and a lawn that looked like it belonged in a catalog. And me? I stayed single, focused on my career in data analytics, and rented a quiet apartment across town where nobody asked why I still hadn't settled down. I had a 401k, a Roth IRA, a sleek espresso machine, and no intention of needing anyone. None of that counted unless you had a ring on your finger. My parents, Linda and Jerry, never said it outright, but their questions were loaded like old shotguns, polite but deadly. Don't you want children before it's too late? Rachel's boys are growing so fast, it's a shame they don't have cousins. You're still in that apartment, huh? I learned to nod, smile, and pivot. It became a kind of dance. I used to think if I worked hard enough, hit enough milestones, they'd see me the way they saw Rachel. But truth settles like dust, slowly, subtly, until one day, you're coughing and wondering why the air feels thick. I wasn't the daughter they bragged about at bridge club. I was the one they assumed would be fine, no matter what. But I never complained. I showed up for the holidays, fixed their Wi-Fi, and brought wine when they forgot my birthday. And for the most part, I kept my distance. It was safer, cleaner. I thought distance would protect me. I was wrong. Rachel's perfect life shattered like porcelain, quietly at first, then all at once. She found messages. Her husband David had been cheating for years. Affairs tucked into his work travel like extra socks. And maybe she always knew. Maybe she just finally stopped pretending. And no one blamed her when she filed for divorce. Not even our parents. David vanished shortly after, no child support, no apology, just a ghost with a legal name. Rachel moved into a peeling 2-bedroom apartment with her sons, Ethan and Jamie. I didn't think twice. I paid the attorney's retainer. I covered 6 months of rent when her part-time hours at the community center weren't enough. I babysat the boys so she could breathe, cry, sleep, whatever she needed. I never brought it up. I never expected anything in return. I loved them. Even Rachel, who always had more, but suddenly had nothing. And I thought maybe now our parents would see me. Maybe this time they'd say, "Thank God for Katherine." They didn't. Instead, every conversation with Mom started with Rachel's struggles and ended with, "Are you seeing anyone yet?" Still, I stayed quiet, because family means showing up, even when you're tired of being invisible. But here's the thing about being the responsible one. Eventually, people stop seeing your help as a gift. It becomes expected. It becomes a given. It was a Wednesday when the trap was sprung. "Katherine, honey," Mom said over the phone, her voice uncharacteristically bright. "We have such good news. Can you come by tonight?" I hesitated. Her excitement didn't feel real, too rehearsed. But maybe, just maybe, something had turned around. Maybe David was finally paying up. Maybe Rachel got a better job. I drove across town, tired from work but curious. When I walked in, they were already seated like a bad stage play. Dad in the recliner, Mom on the couch, Rachel beside her smiling, but tied around the eyes. "Take a look," Dad said, handing me a manila folder. Inside, mortgage papers, real estate logos, legal jargon. "What is this?" "For Rachel's new house." Mom beamed. 3 bedrooms, a yard for the boys. "Isn't it wonderful?" I blinked. "You Bought a house? We used most of our savings and a bit of the retirement for the down payment, Mom said. They needed stability. The apartment just isn't enough. I nodded, still dazed. That's great. The boys will love it. I handed the folder back, but Mom pushed it toward me again. No, sweetie, those are for you. What? Dad cleared his throat. We've talked about this. You'll take over the mortgage. You've been saving. You can handle it. My pulse went silent. You're asking me to pay for Rachel's house? Rachel wouldn't meet my eyes. I have nothing, she murmured. I can't give them what they need without help. I already paid for her divorce and her rent. I said, stunned. We raised you, Mom said softly. Isn't it time to give back? That was the moment I stood up. My hands shook. You bought a house knowing she couldn't afford it, assuming I'd pay. Dad didn't flinch. You don't have a husband or kids. You can manage. This doesn't help, I said. This is manipulation. I left the folder on the table. I left before I started screaming, and that was just the beginning. Silence followed me home like a shadow. I sat on my couch in the dark, shoes still on, bag forgotten by the door. The folder, the look on Rachel's face, my mother's hand on mine like she was offering love, not a chain. It looped in my mind like a bad tune on repeat. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I skipped coffee. My hands shook too much. Anyway, at work, I tried to focus, but the lines on my screen blurred. My team lead noticed and asked if I was okay. I lied and said allergies. The first message came 2 days later. A text from my cousin April. Hey, I heard what happened. Just want you to know we're all here for Rachel. She's lucky to have such a strong sister. I stared at the screen. I hadn't told anyone. Not a soul. But someone had. Someone who twisted the story before it even had the chance to breathe. Then came Tiffany's call, loud, insistent, judgmental. Then voicemails. Then Facebook messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. You're selfish. You don't understand what motherhood means. Rachel's children are your blood. Each word is like a thorn. What struck me most wasn't the anger, it was the certainty. They all believed it. That I was wrong. That being single and childless meant my money wasn't mine. That helping once meant helping always. That saying no was cruel. I blocked numbers, deleted voicemails, turned off notifications, but the shame crawled in anyway. I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe I was cruel. Maybe I had turned cold. Maybe, just maybe, they were right. But then I remembered. I had already helped. Again and again. Quietly, without keeping score, and now they wanted everything. Then the letter came. A thick envelope. Certified mail. My full name in bold across the front. Inside, a formal civil claim. Filed by Linda and Jerry Sanders. My parents, they were suing me. The courthouse looked like it hadn't changed in 40 years. Brown brick, narrow windows, and a flag that barely moved in the still summer air. I stood outside the heavy doors with my attorney, Jennifer Madsen, a woman who looked like she ate subpoenas for breakfast. Gray slacks, dark blazer, no-nonsense voice. She'd seen every kind of family betrayal, but she still blinked when she read the claim against me. 350000, she repeated back when we met the week before. For reimbursement of parenting costs? I nodded. They itemized vacations. From when I was 6, Jennifer snorted. I've seen greed before, Katherine. But this is weaponized guilt wrapped in legal jargon. Now, we walked through the courthouse metal detectors, her briefcase swinging by her side, my stomach churning like I'd swallowed concrete. This wasn't just a court date. This was a funeral for the illusion that family meant protection. Inside the courtroom, the air was stale, cold. The walls were in institutional beige, the carpet thin and slightly frayed at the corners. My parents sat on the left side. Rachel sat between them in a soft lavender blouse that looked hand-picked to exude vulnerability. My side was emptier. Just 2 people, Grandma Maggie and Grandpa Walt. They wore their Sunday best. Grandma had pinned a brooch on her jacket that I hadn't seen since childhood. It looked like a sunflower, bright and out of place. The judge entered. An older man, in his 60s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He looked like someone who didn't tolerate nonsense, which gave me a flicker of hope. My father stood first. Your Honor, he began, we are not unreasonable people, but we invested our lives, our money, our emotional resources into raising Katherine. We are only asking for what is fair now that her sister and nephews need help. The judge adjusted his glasses. Specifically, Mr. Sanders, how much did you spend on Katherine's education after she turned 18? My parents looked at each other. My mother spoke. We weren't able to contribute directly. Rachel had just gotten married. We were assisting them as they established their home. So you did not pay for the defendant's college? No, Mom replied. But her grandmother, my mother, did. And since we supported her sometimes indirectly behind me, Grandma Maggie let out a very audible scoff. Jennifer rose, calm and surgical. Your Honor, we have documents proving Miss Sanders has been financially independent since the age of 18. She has provided direct financial assistance to both plaintiffs and their other daughter on multiple occasions. She handed the judge a folder: bank transfers, rent payments, legal retainers, grocery money. We also included text messages from Mrs. Sanders requesting help when Mr. Sanders' pension fell short. The judge scanned the paperwork, flipping pages with measured precision. So, he said slowly, the defendant has been giving financial support, not receiving it. Jennifer nodded. Correct. My mother leaned forward, visibly sweating. That money isn't relevant. We're talking about raising her. Food, clothes, emotional guidance. That's what this is about. The judge looked up. Then why list a mortgage balance on your claim? My father hesitated. It's about ensuring Rachel's boys have a stable future. Rachel's name is on the deed. Yes, and she cannot afford the payments? No, the judge leaned back. So you purchased a home for one daughter, knowing she could not maintain it, and filed suit against the other to fund it? Silence. He turned to Rachel. Miss Sanders, do you believe your sister owes you a home? Rachel didn't answer right away. She's not married. She has no children. I do. It's different. The judge tilted his head. I'm not married either. Should I cover my bailiff's mortgage? Or pay for my clerk's daycare? Rachel shrank into her chair. What followed was an hour of brutal, clinical cross-examination. Jennifer asked about timelines, amounts, and expectations. The judge asked why guilt was masquerading as fairness. He asked why a childless daughter was deemed expendable. He asked why love had a price tag. My parents squirmed. Their arguments collapsed under the weight of their contradictions. They looked smaller by the end of it, not defeated, just revealed. When it was over, the judge looked at me. Miss Sanders, thank you for your composure. He turned to my parents. You have misused the court's time. The financial responsibility of raising a child does not entitle one to reimbursement, especially when that child has already demonstrated ongoing familial support. This claim is without merit. Dismissed. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Just like that, it was over. Except it wasn't. Outside the courtroom, Grandma wrapped her arms around me. You were steady, she whispered. That's more than I can say for anyone else in there. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just stood in the sunlight and finally breathed. Then, 1 week later, came the knock on Grandma's door. Linda Sanders, my mother, had come with tears in her eyes and a request. She wanted her inheritance early. For Rachel, Grandma told me on the phone to pay off the house. I sat down. What did you say? I told her we haven't decided who gets what yet. And until we do, no one gets a thing. Did she get angry? No, Grandma said. She cried. She begged. Not for you, Katherine. Not for forgiveness. For money. I swallowed hard. Somehow, that hurt more than everything else. It was the quiet afterward that surprised me most. Not the verdict, not the dismissal, but the silence. As if the lawsuit had cracked open something that had been festering for years and finally let the raw air out. Weeks passed. Then months. No birthday calls. No guilt-laced messages. No Facebook posts dripping with passive aggression. My phone no longer lit up with accusations from second cousins I hadn't spoken to since middle school. At first, I mistook the silence for emptiness, but over time, it became something else. Peace. I bought a small house with a lemon tree in the backyard, and a creaky gate that groaned like it was always in mid-conversation. I painted the kitchen yellow, like I'd always wanted. Adopted a gray cat named Marble who insisted on inspecting every Amazon box like it might contain secrets. I rearranged my furniture until the space felt like me. Until I could breathe, Grandma Maggie and Grandpa Walt came over often. They brought pie, stories, and sometimes old newspaper clippings about weather anomalies or neighborhood scandals. Grandpa fixed my gutters. Grandma taught me how to make her Sunday roast. We didn't talk about my parents unless I asked. I rarely did. One Sunday, sitting on the porch swing sipping tea, Grandma said, "Your mother still talks about you. Still tells people you abandoned Rachel." I didn't respond. The wind moved through the lemon tree behind her. "Your Aunt Pat finally told her to stop," she continued. "Said no one wants to hear it anymore." That part made me smile. Just a little. I hadn't seen Rachel or the boys in nearly a year. Word through the family grapevine was that she'd rented out the house and moved back in with our parents. They babysat. She worked part-time again. Somehow, they made it work, or at least pretended to. And then the email came. No subject line. No preamble. "We heard you bought a house. Since you now have extra space, we think it would be best if Rachel and the boys moved in with you. It would be much more convenient for them there. Let us know when they can move in. Love." Mom and Dottie stared at the screen. It didn't make me angry. I simply replied, "I will not be hosting Rachel or the boys. If you contact me again with these kinds of demands, I will report the harassment to the police. Do not email me again." Then I blocked the address, shut my laptop, and made myself a cup of jasmine tea. These days, mornings are slow and warm. Marble sleeps beside my laptop while I work remotely. The tomato plants out back are finally coming in. My inbox is clean. My door stays locked. Mark, a gentleman with kind eyes and a laugh like open windows, entered my life in the early spring. We met at a bookshop downtown. He doesn't ask about my family. Not yet. And I don't offer. Some TIs don't need explaining. Some wounds don't need showcasing. And some silences are sacred. Now and then, I wonder about the boys. About what they were told. If they'll grow up believing I turned my back. If they'll ever reach out. But I don't wait for it. And I don't shape my days around what ifs anymore. Because peace, I've learned, isn't something you find in the approval of others. It's something you carve out for yourself, moment by moment, with a locked gate, a yellow kitchen, a cup of tea, a cat named Marble, and a version of love that doesn't ask for sacrifice as proof. I no longer dream of being chosen, because I've already chosen myself, and that, finally, is enough.